Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Game Plan. Today we'll have a look at why we rage and how we can stop doing it. We all know that raging kills all the fun in the game, but also that it completely ruins our performance. So let's take a closer look at why we do it, and more importantly, how we can stop ourselves from falling into that trap over and over again. To accompany this topic, the footage you will see is of a match where me and my friends got completely owned, and it was quite a struggle to keep our rage levels down. I know it's not as interesting as kill streaks and MVP runs, but I figured it would make sense to show this instead. Anyway, to get back on topic. My theory is that there are two major reasons why we rage: lack of fairness and disappointment with ourselves. Anger is a common and natural response to both, and I'll give examples from other activities than video games to give you an idea of how natural and useful the response is supposed to be. But unfortunately, it isn't in video games. Firstly, we often rage when we feel something unfair happens in the game. This lack of fairness comes in two forms: broken game and lack of good sportsmanship from other players. The broken game category of unfairness is very clear to us all and can often get to even the most level-headed gamer. The game is broken when we have lag, when the hit detection looks faulty, when our game crashes in the middle of a kill streak, when our legs glitch through a wall so people know where we are. But why can this make us so angry? Well, because anger is normally a very effective tool to make the game fair again. For example, when you're playing tennis and your racket has a broken string, no one will expect you to keep on playing. However, when you have lag in a multiplayer game, it's basically like you're playing an entire match with a broken racket, but no one knows or cares. Normally, your anger at the situation will get you to arrange for better equipment, or for your opponent to suggest a compromise. But in video games, this unfairness is part of the package. It's just a fact that the game will break for you once in a while, and no amount of raging from you is going to help that. Now, the other type of unfairness is lack of good sportsmanship, and it makes us angry because other players break unofficial rules about fairness. Everyone has a different idea of what is fair play, but common complaints are using the USAS with frag rounds or the MAV elevator. These tactics are considered cheap, and whoever gets angry about them will not use these tactics because of a sense of honor and a feeling of how the game should be played. Unfortunately, opponents using these tactics don't really care about this. Now, unless you're playing on private servers, everything is fair game. Normally, your anger at cheap tactics would be a social control mechanism to get people to adopt your honor system. For instance, if you're playing paintball with friends and one guy has an awesome custom gun that shoots much straighter than the rental guns, then you either give the guy a handicap or ask him to use rental guns, because otherwise it's not fair. However, in online multiplayer games, your anger is invisible to the opponent, and he generally won't care about how you feel because opponents don't know each other. It's one big anonymous arena. Now, we don't only rage because things are unfair, but also because we are disappointed with ourselves. By becoming angry and blaming our mistakes on others, we don't have to take responsibility for our own mistakes. This is called externalizing the problem, and shows itself when we call lag when we have none, because what else could have caused us to go negative? The flip side of externalizing is called internalizing, and that's when somebody blames himself for everything. The result is not raging, but the equally toxic defeatist attitude, where you become convinced you're the worst player in the world, even though there's most often a perfectly rational reason for your low performance, such as fatigue or unbalanced teams. Both externalizing and internalizing are personality-bound tactics. Some people are more likely to do the one while others tend toward the other. It shows in everything in life and is hardly unique to video games. However, what is unique to video games is how hard it is to take the middle way. Ideally, you don't want to externalize problems that were your own fault, because then you can't improve. And you don't want to internalize problems that were not your fault, because then you get discouraged. The problem with video games is that you don't know half the time if something really was your fault or not. It's often tremendously hard to tell if you had moderate lag or not, and on top of that, you don't get any indication of your opponent's skill level apart from their rank. For instance, I have 3 PSN accounts, 2 of which I'm quite low level on. When I play on these, I can do as well as on my core account, but my opponents might be colonels that only see that they're being whooped by a level 19 player. I'm sure this can be frustrating for quite a few of them, because it's common to assume that rank equals skill. But let's get back to the point of it all. Now we know why we rage. How do we stop doing it? There are two major tactics to getting over raging. One is a rational approach and one an emotional one, and depending on your personality, you should try to mix and match these to greatest effect. For the rational approach, it starts with understanding why you're angry in the first place. If you're angry because you feel something in the game is unfair, then realize that you can either leave the lobby or accept the situation as it is. The game works the way it does and you can't change that. That means there will be bugs, there will be lag, there will be horrible spawn points where you die after 1 second. Additionally, there is no good sportsmanship in public games. You can decide to play according to some honor system you value, like not using claymores because they're cheap, but realize that no one else has to. Everyone has a right to use claymores, USAS, FAMAS and MAV in this game. Everything is allowed. Realize that your sense of fair sportsmanship means that you are putting unnecessary restrictions and handicaps on yourself that no one else has to follow. I'm not saying that you shouldn't, I'm just saying that if you do, recognize it as a personal belief system instead of a universal rule. All in all, this rational approach to fairness means that you accept the game the way it is without imposing your views on how it should be. For a similar approach to your performance, try to use BF3 stats to determine your progress. Also try to come up with a relative criteria for performance instead of an absolute one, because every game is different and you have no control over that. For instance, I don't overly mind if I lose or win, but I push myself to be in the top 3 of my own team. That means that if we're fighting an overpowered team or my own team is just really bad, I don't have to wonder about my own skills and what is my fault or not, as long as I live up to that criteria of being in the top 3 on my own side. This approach is much more sustainable than, for instance, aiming for a KDR of 1.0 in every game, because sometimes you'll find yourself in impossible matches and it's not your fault. On the flip side, once you have this relative criteria, all other mistakes are your own. Simply assume that there is always something you can do to come out on top. If you pumped a full clip into someone and they didn't die, then your aim was probably off. Or maybe you should take that suppressor off your gun, or keep still while firing to lower the spread of your bullets. Even if in reality you could not have changed the outcome, you'll be better off assuming that you could, because then you can take a learning approach to each loss and use it to get better. Strong opponents give you a chance to improve in a way that equal or lesser opponents never can. On the other hand, the emotional approach to dealing with rage is about the fact that rage is an emotion and sometimes no amount of rationalization is going to make it go away. There are 2 elements to this. First, you can prevent raging by adopting a playful attitude. This might sound ironic because Battlefield is of course a game, so aren't we all in a playful attitude when we're gaming? Well, no, we're not. Many of us are quite far away from that actually. A playful attitude means playing the game for the sheer joy of playing. It means exploring the map, racing in vehicles in a reckless way just for the hell of it, or blowtorch killing a guy just cause you could. When you approach the game with a playful attitude, you'll have more fun, you won't mind your mistakes, and you'll probably do a lot better than in any game you end up raging. I played games where I drive a jeep into the ocean 3 times in a row together with a friend, and we thought it was funny and we went on to win the game. Driving jeeps into the ocean does not make you win games, but playing around does keep your spirits up, which in turn gives you the peace of mind to play well. Secondly, humor is the key to getting rid of immediate feelings of rage. If you can make yourself laugh, then you're done raging per definition. This might sound lame to some, but it's honestly a very powerful coping mechanism. Humor is meant to bond us together, but also to keep our spirits up during hard times. This is of course where playing with friends can really make all the difference in your mindset. Simply joke about how bad you are, don't take yourself too seriously. You might feel that good performance can only come from serious training, but the most natural way to learn is to play around with something. And the most natural way to keep your motivation up is to remain cheerful. That's what humor is for. So in a nutshell, we rage because we feel something in the game is unfair or because we're not doing well. The way to stop raging is to rationally accept that the game is simply not always fair and that your opponents don't follow your honor code. Find a relative performance criteria for yourself and consider each small loss as a learning experience. Emotionally, try to keep a playful attitude, don't take yourself too seriously, and use jokes to diffuse your anger. And if all else fails, just throw your controller across the room.